I mean, I'm just so angry. This is not a popular policy. It is inhumane. It is literally the one thing that they said they weren't going to do. But of course, because the federal government has indicated that they don't really care what happens to anybody and we can be as draconian as we want, it's like trickling down.
Welcome back to Hysteria, the podcast that is down the government shutdown conspiracy rabbit hole. The conspiracy theory, that's the thing about it. Maybe I'm not so far afield. The government is currently only scheduled to be funded through March 14th, just a few short weeks away. And as of this morning, the House passed the framework for a spending bill that's pretty incendiary, in my opinion. It seeks to cut $2 trillion in federal spending over the next decade. And for example, it seeks to make up a lot of that ground by cutting $800 billion with a B from Medicaid. For listeners who may not be acquainted with all that Medicaid does, it covers 21% of Americans nationally, 4 in 10 children, 4 in 1 adults with disabilities, 5 in 8 nursing home residents, 41% of births nationwide, and that's just to name a few. Now, as I said, it's only a framework, and what gives me a little bit of hope is that the Senate has a razor-thin GOP majority, and they haven't gotten their hands on this one yet. And also maybe another little tiny baby glimmer of hope is that Senate Budget Chair Lindsey Graham's own version of the budget framework does not include Medicaid cuts. Akilah, do you think he wants to shut it down? You think Trump wants to shut it down? He's previously used shutdowns as political leverage.
Yeah.
Is this the right time for him to try this jiggery-pokery again?
I mean, I think it's risky. Obviously, I'm not a big pollster, but as you see the polls, he's starting to tank because people are a little worried about these big cuts. And I think that these are the sort of personal cuts that, result in that kind of backlash. And so does he want the goodwill of the people, or is he so far gone at this point that it doesn't matter? I think that's sort of where my math is with it. But yeah, I can see, to the end of getting rid of more employees, having more leverage to do that. This is definitely in his interest. But I think politically, this is a nightmare for him.
Right? I mean,
I don't know why he would do this.
The cuts that they're all talking about, that they rammed through in this framework late last night, really impact a lot of people who voted for Trump.
A ton. I mean, I'll tell you, obviously I'm from Kentucky,
right?
And I'm in the local Facebook groups, and the lone House Republican who voted against this was from Kentucky, a hardcore Republican, because Kentucky is, I think, in the top 5 recipients nationwide, at least top 10 for Medicaid. Much higher percentages throughout all of this. And a lot of the funding for medical care in Kentucky comes from the federal government. And so he knows that they can't survive that kind of cut. And so I think that, obviously a lot of people are worried about Elon Musk primarying them, so they're just going to toe the party line. But I think that even that, to me, is a huge crack that we just need to pay attention to. It's just really, it's really scary, and it's a lot of people impacted. And I think that Republicans always sort of tend to miss that healthcare is popular. I don't know why they keep
the minute
they stopped
the minute they stopped calling it Obamacare and called it the Affordable Care Act, the pros went way up. People started being like, oh no, I mean, it's not the greatest healthcare, but I have healthcare. And Akilah, what people forget, up until Obamacare, pre-existing conditions were a thing.
Oh, totally. Majorly. And I mean, I was my first election I voted in was for Obama in 2008. I wouldn't have had health care because thankfully the ACA keeps the kids on until they're 26. And so that was huge for me, especially when you're spending so much more money on education and they're not doing anything to alleviate those costs. So it is just kind of wild. I think that they're playing an old playbook that's failed already. And I think that it sort of, at least from my approximation, speaks to Trump's age. I think he's maybe forgetting that this didn't work last time.
It was just a couple weeks ago, or I mean, maybe it was days at this point, I don't know, where he was saying that he was not for Medicaid cuts. And now it's 800 billion.
Yeah.
And it feels, I mean, the thing that we know about him is that we can never take him at his word.
Right.
The JD Vance and the Elon Musk of it all, I think we absolutely take them at their word. I think they
Yeah.
mean everything that they say. It's clear that Speaker Johnson will just cut whatever deal he has
Yes.
to pass these things. So we don't even know. I mean, we know the big things. The big thing I saw, 800 bill. And to me,
Yeah,
that
that's
seemed
major. And also something that wasn't included was the no tax on tips, which I think
right.
Republicans were really cheering on initially, but there's no policy discussion within the bill about that. And so there's not even the benefits that I think usually Republicans rely on,
Right.
Again, unfortunately, I'm on these meta products. I'm talking to the locals and, they try to figure out how they can defend these cuts. And they're like, well, it'll just go back to the states. And I'm like, there's nothing here that says that. And so I think that the backlash is going to continue to Trump. And, I'm just trying to hold my I told you so's because I'm getting screwed too.
Well, and here's the question. Do you think that, what is the Democrats' strategy here? Like, what should Democrats be doing? This huge number is out. The government may shut down. I mean, like, this is the quagmire of DC that is the grossest part of it all, right?
Yeah.
That if Democrats, because Republicans seem to have the biggest microphone right now, barring the town halls, which we're going to get to later.
Yes.
They have the biggest microphone. So it seems like if the government shuts down, like, Democrats could get blamed, but also how a Democrat would never win re-election if they cut $800 billion in Medicaid.
I mean, that's a fact. And I think that, maybe the messaging continues to just be as simple as possible. I got a few emails overnight that were like $800 billion to Medicaid, or being cut. And I think that is simple enough for people to process. And you're right, it's a much smaller microphone. I mean, I'm curious to see how they'll try to spin it all week. It seems like it's just not going well in the immediate response. And so I guess I mean, this is the most unpopular thing to say on the internet. They hate it when I say this, but I'm going to say it. I think the Dems should just sit back and watch it happen at this point. Not that we shouldn't fight back, by calling our reps, by all of that. They're voting correctly. They're voting in our interests.
Right.
And so I think that letting the Republicans do what they're doing and seeing the results and seeing the poll numbers drop, sometimes I wrote a Substack post about it, but I always say, sometimes the check engine light goes off on its own.
Oh my God. But Akilah, you and I have actually talked about it. Just when things are going great, that check engine light always comes back on.
Yeah, it sure does. I don't believe there's one person on the planet who has no lights on their dashboard all at the same time. It's when they're leaving the lot and then never again.
Hysteria is brought to you by Babbel. Here's something I'd love us Americans to get better at this year, something that our European friends beat us at in spades. It's speaking more than one language, and you can do so sooner than you think with Babbel. This year, speak like a whole new you with Babbel, the language learning app that gets you talking. Learning a new language is the pathway to discovering new cultures, so why not embark on something new? Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons, handcrafted by over 200 language experts, get you to begin speaking your new language in 3 weeks or whatever you choose. And because conversing is the key to really understanding each other in new language, Babbel is designed using practical, real-world conversations. Spending months with private teachers is the old way of learning languages, and nothing screams tourist like holding a phone translation app up to your face all day. Babbel's tips and tools are inspired by the real-life stuff you actually need when communicating. With a focus on conversation, you'll be ready to talk wherever you go. So I'm excited because I've been dabbling in my Babbel. I was actually raised by parents who believed it is not okay to only speak English. So I grew up a little bit of German, a lot of French, and then once I got to college, also Japanese. So next year, my husband and I are hoping to take a trip to Japan. It has been years since I have brushed up on my Japanese and have already started doing so. And guess what? It's coming back pretty quick, and I am very proud of myself. Need proof that Babbel gets you talking? Studies from Yale, Michigan State, and other leading universities continue to prove Babbel works. One study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is the equivalent to a full semester at college. With over 16 million subscriptions sold, Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by a 20-day money-back guarantee. This year, get talking with Babbel. Let's get more of you talking in a new language. Babbel is gifting our listeners 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/hysteria. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/hysteria, spelled BABBEL.com/hysteria. Babbel.com/hysteria. Rules and restrictions may apply. Hysteria is brought to you by Fatty 15. I don't know about you guys, but I know you hear me talking about the fact that I'm getting older. And I am so proud. I am happy. I don't care about the aging. It's just some of the components of aging, right? I'm a little stiffer. My hair's getting a little thinner. My skin's getting a little drier. That's why I'm excited to share with you guys C15 from Fatty 15, the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in more than 90 years. It's an incredible scientific breakthrough to support our long-term health and wellness, and you guessed it, aging and longevity. Fatty 15 co-founder Dr. Stephanie Van Watson discovered the benefits of C15 while working with the U.S. Navy to continually improve the health and welfare of aging dolphins. Based on over 100 studies, we now know that C15 strengthens our cells and is a key longevity-enhancing nutrient, which helps to slow biological aging at the cellular level. In fact, when our cells don't have enough C15, they become fragile and age faster. And when our cells age, our body ages too. This eventually led to studies finding the first new nutritional deficiency in 75 years, called cellular fragility syndrome, caused by a lack of the essential fatty acid C15. As many as 1 in 3 people worldwide may have low C15 levels and cellular fragility syndrome. To help fix cellular fragility syndrome and further extend our health and longevity, a team of doctors working in collaboration with the U.S. Navy spent over a decade to develop the pure, optimized, and bioavailable C15-0 ingredient in Fatty 15. Thankfully, Fatty 15 repairs age-related damage to cells, protects them from future breakdown, and activates pathways in the body that help regulate our sleep, mood, and natural repair mechanisms that support overall health. This functionality leads to so many exciting benefits now and as we get older. In fact, 72% of Fatty 15 customers report seeing or feeling benefits within 16 weeks, including improved metabolic, liver, and heart health, smoother functioning joints, deeper sleep, and healthier hair, skin, and nails. Now that's essential. Fatty 15 is a science-backed, award-winning, vegan, patented, 100% pure C15 supplement. It's vegan-friendly, free of flavors, fillers, allergens, or preservatives. Fatty 15 has 3 times more cellular benefits than omega-3 or fish oil. By replenishing our cells with the essential 15 nutrient, Fatty 15 effectively repairs cells and restores our long-term health. Fatty 15 is clinically proven to raise C15-0 levels, resulting in lower cholesterol levels, healthier liver function, improved gut microbiome health, and improved red blood cell health within 3 weeks. I have been taking the Fatty 15 for a couple months now. I definitely can tell a difference in my hair and my gut function. I'm very grateful to have access to this product. And best of all, Fatty 15 comes in a gorgeous reusable glass bamboo jar, and refills are shipped straight to your door. Fatty 15 is on a mission to optimize your C15 levels to help you live healthier longer. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/hysteria and using code hysteria at checkout. Can I tell you my kind of dark conspiracy theory about the shutdown?
Sure.
It's dark. But not so dark that other people haven't said it. Like, I've been thinking it, but then I've seen reporting around this potential idea. So here is, okay, as a tiny baby cat in public service, when I got to the White House, I was taught how a government shutdown works. Yeah. And in theory, a government shutdown is meant to shut down the government. Yeah. Only the most critical employees stay. Most major functions cease. You know, like national parks can be open, but they're not safe. You know, like, because there's all the employees have been furloughed. Right. And,
and the ones who haven't been fired already.
Right. And so I'm worried that the Republicans, I mean, the $800 billion just seems so incendiary that Republicans are not going to be able to vote for it. I see, I mean, a lot of them will, but I think that there are quite a few who are like, are you fucking kidding me? Get away from, this is crazy. My whole district relies.
Right. And, you know, Mitch McConnell is like, I'm retiring now, so I don't, this doesn't matter.
Right. And he's just like, he's going to like John McCain thumb down it and be like, hardly. But there was an interesting.
Be like, I have to make up some ground when I meet the Lord.
Right. And this is like So there are two things happening simultaneously.
Mhm.
One, we have this potential government shutdown. We know at midnight, whatever the day is, March 14th, if they don't have a deal, if there's no continuing resolution or anything like that, the government shuts down. Now, the thing is that I worry about, because Donald Trump has no affinity for norms.
Yeah.
But I think our big shutdown was in 2013. We had 16 days we were shut down, which meant that all non-essential employees were gone.
Yeah.
That's everyone you can imagine. Yours personally was like writing the scripts for the White House operators to record to say the government is shut down. We were in the Oval Office when Joe Biden came running in to be like, there's a truckload of veterans at the World War II memorial. I should go help them. And we were like, oh, geez, no, it's closed. Like, what if someone gets hurt and you're there? Like, are you liable? Like, it is so,
now there's questions.
There are like, people always talk about Social Security checks not going out. There's a bit of a lag with that. So if the government's not shut down for too long, that may not be affected. But the truth is that Trump, as president, can deem anything essential, right? Functions essential, things he wouldn't want to be blamed for. However, if you've never seen it, this is a fantastical episode of Veep, the government shutdown, where people just keep getting furloughed and unfurloughed. They don't even know the word for it. She's been unfurloughed. And Selena Meyer's just standing there and she's like, actually, Mike, you're gone. Dan, you're back. And I do feel that's how Trump would run his shutdown, so that he would feel the least impact. But the sheer fact that in theory, the non-essential workers are the ones who are furloughed feels like a dangerously easy way for Elon Musk to be like, they're the ones that have to go.
Right. Like that. Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, if he's looking to cut what he calls waste, if the government can somehow maintain a single day without them, he's going to call it waste. And so I am with you on this conspiracy theory. I would love to be wrong, but it is, because of the way that I hate to call it Doge, that stupid office of dumb people is cutting people sort of willy-nilly. I mean, the Doge boys, was it Big Balls 69 or whoever?
That's those people.
Yeah.
Though it is crazy because there's a cabinet meeting as we record, and Elon Musk is giving his presentation to the cabinet, some of who I read were quite salty that he was invited. Because Akilah, can we just again level set for people? Doge is not a government agency.
It's not a real thing.
It's not a real
just
thing.
Like some people hanging out, but like stealing all of our data.
But I literally don't understand functionally, in principle, how is this different than if a Democrat were president and we were just like, you know what? I'm going to run shit out of the DNC.
Right.
It's not a government agency, and everything he is doing is actually political.
Yes. I mean, I think it's wild because when I look back in my life, I mean, obviously I've had some political leanings, but even in the times when I was deeply uninvested in politics, if someone had said that to me, that would have given me great pause. I would have been like, I don't know. I just feel like my democracy. I feel like if I don't fight for at least these rights, then I have none. It's so clearly taxation without representation. No one voted for this. Our money is just going to this guy to do whatever he wants now.
I guess. Right?
I mean, if the government just to go back to that point, what's going to happen with tax day? I mean, they're also trying to fire all these people at the IRS.
I'm so confused. Well, my favorite yesterday when I was doing dishes and watching the news was to see the giant USPS protest where they just kept chanting, hell no.
This is so terrible.
It's terrible. Who are you going after? You're going after people who need medical care and the post office?
Right.
I mean, look, does the post office maybe need a little help? Sure. But
in the form of more cash. Not in the form
and maybe
of,
a little better
people.
Leadership.
Right.
But no, the post workers were out. They were protesting too. But the interesting thing is, I am excited to see what comes out of this, because we all know that Elon sent that crazy email that apparently you could reply all to and nobody
Yes.
took the initiative. Like, did you read about that Lorne Michaels invitation a couple weeks ago? And it was an invitation to the
Oh,
Lorne
yes. And it
Michaels
became
book
this
party.
big fight.
This whole big like reply all, and Colin Jost was calling everybody old. Okay,
Yeah.
the fact that no one did that on this email chain shocks
Insane.
me.
I can't believe it.
But so the Office of Personnel Management comes out and says, you can't do this. This is a no.
Yeah.
Other agencies, heads of agencies who are sitting around the table right now while Elon gives his presentation, we're all like, do not listen to this email. This is crazy.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can a government be run? But also they're all afraid of Elon because...
Right. They're like, this is fake, but also like, he's really rich, so we have to do what he says.
But also, if the threat of him... Here's where we're going, right? I read something this morning. I got to find it because I wanted to share. Here it is. Oh, from Politico. Quote, consumer confidence plummeted in February as more Americans grapple with concern that President Donald Trump's policies could slow growth and cause prices to rise, according to a new survey. The Conference Board's widely cited consumer confidence index notched its sharpest monthly decline since August 2021, when the country was experiencing a resurgence of COVID-19 variants. So here's like my question. I know everyone's super scared that Elon's going to put money up and primary them. But if Elon just wants to win, aren't the primary challengers going to start getting more and more liberal?
Actually, really good point. And also,
Right?
yeah, like if he's wouldn't a better strategy be? I had not considered this, Alyssa. You've blown my mind. But I'm like, why wouldn't he just fund those people anyway?
Right.
I don't understand. I also think that like it's kind of it's that same thing of like giving up your power before you have to. Like I think that unless he's going to steal the election, which I'm not at that conspiracy level yet, but I'm like, there's no telling if his money will necessarily be more valuable than people being like, I can't afford to eat. I don't have healthcare. I don't have a job. Like, I think that's a miscalculation on their part.
Like the campaign ads for 2026 are slowly starting to write themselves. And it is with all
don't
the
you
footage.
Miss eggs?
Yes. I mean, I think it was Wendy. It was one of the food chains had to come out and be like, yo, we got to raise the price. Anything breakfast sandwich with an egg in it's going up $1. And I get it. I get it. Are you kidding? All the neighbors now, all the neighbors who used to be like, you know, because I live in a rural area, who used to be like, oh, hey, I have eggs. Now it's a little bit more like, I've got eggs.
Yeah, how close are you to the eggs?
I've got eggs. How much jam you got in that pantry, Alyssa? Because I got eggs.
Yes, right. We're all bartering. We're all sort of like figuring it out. And I also think that, yeah, everything is still more expensive. And it was, I mean, obviously it was always a lie that he was going to be able to lower the prices on day one in office. But now we're at day, 60, almost something like 50. I can't count. All I know is we're far in. The prices are only going up. And so I do think that if that really is what people care about, and I do tend to think that that's a major thing, it doesn't really matter how much money Elon has in the future if everybody else is broke. There's way more broke people to vote.
Right. And so, but here was some news from yesterday. Old Caroline Levitt was up at the podium briefing, as she does.
Yeah,
and
yelling.
People were like, hey, so who really... If Elon Musk, because the administration's sort of line here has been that Elon doesn't run Doge because legally he can't. He doesn't run Doge. He's an advisor to the president. He's a special government employee, which again is a reminder to people, special government employees, they're like constraints in how many hours they can work, of those hours, how many months they can actually work or weeks. Right. So, and he's been there, I don't know, he has seen hot on the job since day one. So just saying. And they come out and they say, and Levitt says, I'm not going to say this person's name from the podium. Isn't that what the podium's for?
Right. And also, wasn't her next line, we've been very transparent, which to me is like so directly in contrast. Like,
once you say you've been transparent, you know you're not transparent. But so anyway, it comes out a woman named Amy Gleason is the administrator of Doge, and be so clear the use of the word administrator. Right. Someone who administers your health benefits is not the person, it's not your healthcare company. I mean, it is, but it's a person within the healthcare company who's your administrator. Yeah. So anyway, I'm just going to say this poor woman because I don't know anything about her yet, but I do know that she was on vacation in Mexico when she found out she got outed.
Right. And I'm like, so all these people are getting fired and you're not even in the country and your identity has now been released. But also, why were they protecting her identity? Because it's pretty clear that like she is just a name. She is not, if she's in Mexico, she's not the one coming up with these cuts. It's still
Do you know what I think it was?
What do you think?
I think that when they briefed the podium, they didn't have a name. I don't think they had the administrator. I think they were like, you know what? We got to go find somebody or pick her. I'm sure she was there. And, you know, funny enough, about, I think it was yesterday or day before, 25 people quit the Doge because they had been poached from a digital agency within the government. And they were all like, we're not going to be a part of this. This is nuts. We're not doing this. But poor Amy on vacay down in Mexico, they're like, you know what? She's not here. No one can find her. It's her. So I don't know a lot about her. I tried to Google. I think she's been a government employee for a while. I think she may have even worked in the Obama administration.
Yeah.
But
like, yeah, just kind of a name. And also just the fall guy for this now, because I also think, I mean, okay, so I guess back to like them asking for this information and it being obscured, like if I was, you know, in the press pool and I had further questions now, because this does seem to create more questions than it answers. Like, is there any evidence that she was the administrator before that, like her name came out? Because like we
Not
still
clear.
need all of the like facts, right?
I'm sure they'll manufacture evidence.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Oh,
I'm
God.
sure
We live in
business
scam
cards
o'clock.
are being printed. You know, her email signature is being changed as we speak.
Yeah.
But one thing about all the people that are out there firing, I read something before we move on to our next story that I just had to share because it blew my fucking mind.
Yeah.
Do you know that 1 in 3 government workers is a veteran?
I had no idea.
Yeah. I heard that this morning. I heard that on a reputable news source. 1 in 3 veterans is a federal employee. They are just, I know where I heard it. They were interviewing a veteran who had been fired. After serving multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he came back and helped the vets who were coming back like him. And he got fired. And the sickest, grossest part, which I have to reaffirm every episode, is they aren't just firing people. They're firing them for cause. They're saying they did something wrong, which means they can never work in the government again. And again, the hardship done to these people. And again, you know, people talk about that they were on probationary periods of 2 years. What that means is that the current job they're in, it's like, it would be, to use myself as an example. It's not a great example, but it's illustrative.
Yeah.
I came into the White House and I was the White House Director of Scheduling in Advance. The corollary here would be if when I became Deputy Chief of Staff, I were on a probationary period for 2 years. It doesn't mean that I didn't have the 2 years as Director of Sched Advance. Doesn't mean I didn't have all of my years in the Senate. The reason that's important, retirement.
Yeah.
So many of these people, just to remember, to recall. And then what's the through line there? It's everything fucking Donald Trump does. He's like, well, they can sue for their jobs back. Okay, so a bunch of government employees who are scared shitless for their jobs, their health benefits, maybe their retirement, now have to go get lawyers to try. And I just wish, you know what? Hysteria listeners, if you know people who have pro bono, shoot names over to the Discord. Let's see if there are lawyers who can do pro bono work for some of these people for free, because to me, it's what he did with his contractors. Yep. It's what he did in New York City with real estate investments. He's just
all
like,
of his
fuck
charities.
Fuck it, all the charities. We'll just make them sue. People will go bankrupt. They'll stop. I'll settle for a small amount of money and I'll still win. And I really feel like that is the absolute wrapping up everything that's happening with a bow.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the darkest timeline.
Darkest timeline. Hysteria is brought to you by Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol. Let's face it, after a night with drinks, I don't bounce back the next day like I used to. I have to make a choice. I can either have a great night or a great next day. That is, until I found Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol. Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic helps your body break down acetaldehyde, alcohol's toxic byproduct, so you feel better the next day. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. This is a proactive way to help with the next day instead of a reactive approach. Every time I have pre-alcohol before I drink, I notice a difference the next day without question. Even after a night out, I can confidently plan on doing my workout classes, running my errands, or reading the many books that I have to read for my job without worry. Admittedly, I was skeptical about Z-Biotics, but then while hanging out with Caroline Reston, my producer here, when I was out in LA, I gave it a shot. But now that I've tried it a few times, I know it actually works really well. With pre-alcohol, I can stay on track and not let winter travel and celebrations like Valentine's Day, the big game, and Mardi Gras throw me off course. Go to zbiotics.com/hysteria to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Hysteria at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/hysteria and use code hysteria at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, Z-Biotics, for sponsoring this episode and the good times. Hysteria is brought to you by Rocket Money. I cannot tell you guys how much money Rocket Money has saved me since the first time that I used it. I had so many subscriptions. I will not name names. I had so many subscriptions to the same streamers and online news organizations. And I don't know how it happened, but I don't anymore. And now I can take myself out to dinner once a month for free based on all the money that I saved. Missing out on a show that everyone is talking about isn't an option for me. I'm constantly signing up for this streaming service or that one, and then a few months later I realize I've still been paying for the service long after I finished the show. Getting Rocket Money was a game changer for me, as I mentioned. They'll find your unwanted subscriptions and even help you cancel them so you never have to worry about them slipping through the cracks. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. See all of your subscriptions in one place and know exactly where your money's going. For ones you don't want anymore, Rocket Money can help you cancel them. Rocket Money's dashboard gives you a clear view of your expenses across all accounts. Easily creates a personalized budget with custom categories to help keep your spending on track. Get alerts if bills increase in price, there's unusual spending activity, or if you're close to going over budget. The new goals feature automatically saves money for you so you don't have to even think about it. Pay off credit card debt, put away money for a house, or just build your savings. Rocket Money makes it easy. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you. They can automatically scan your bills to find opportunities to save, then you can ask them to negotiate for you. They'll deal with customer service so you don't have to. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/hysteria today. That's rocketmoney.com/hysteria. rocketmoney.com/hysteria. Here's the other problem. So it seems that all the things that Elon Musk is like promoting and all the things that he's doing and all the encouragement he's giving to, I think I actually heard this morning, Akilah, I don't know if you heard this, that there's Ron DeSantis is doing a Doge down in Florida.
Yeah, God.
Right? So
Every
that's not good for
Republican
Florida.
state is about to be real screwed.
Real doji.
Mm-hmm.
And so now states are like, okay, so we see the sky's the limit. And we're seeing that the permission structure that this administration is setting for people to do really dastardly shit is taking full effect. And so there are a couple examples of this. One, in West Virginia, GOP lawmakers are looking to remove rape and incest exemptions from the state's near total abortion ban.
And it's
Akilah.
like, I mean, I'm just so angry. Like all I get, like I feel like my eyes are burning out of my skull. I'm enraged. This is not a popular policy. It is inhumane. It is literally the one thing that they said they weren't going to do. But of course, because the federal government has indicated that they don't really care what happens to anybody and we can be as draconian as we want, it's like trickling down. And that feels, it's just scary. Look, I mean, hate to go on a tangent, but I also read something this morning. I think it might have been in The Atlantic. It was about how there are these people who are protonatalists. They are desperate for more babies in this country, but only certain kinds of babies, but they don't want to talk about that. I feel like the article didn't do a good job about being really transparent about that. But in any case, I can't imagine a bigger reason to not want to try to have kids than, the fact that there is just no safety in being a pregnant person. And also, like, if something awful happens to you, you're going to be forced to have kids. So it's like, I would, keep my circle really small. I just think that, like, this is really bleak for the future. And I think that it only encourages people to, try to leave. If you're trying to have a family in that way, like, I can't imagine having a kid here and then raising them in a country where this is the law. So it's just really ugly to me. I can't even, like, stomach West Virginia right now.
Well, we're going to move on to Missouri. And whereas West Virginia, the shit there is terrible, it's not anything we haven't heard before. They've been trying this for ages. Missouri, on the other hand, is getting creative in the worst possible way. Friend of the pod, Jess Valenti, reported on a new bill in Missouri that would create a state-run registry of pregnant people that the state considers, quote, at risk for seeking abortion. What?
Oh my God.
How does that registry come to be? Like, I just literally can't even say, like, honestly, I know we love technology, but track your period and your ovulation on a desk calendar. I mean, truly.
Right. I'm like, I don't even know. And I also think, like, if I'm some sort of vindictive partner, I would just be like, well, they're pregnant. And then when there's no baby in 9 months, they're going to get arrested. Like, what is this? This is just so weird.
It gets just a hair creepier.
No, please.
Because to make matters worse, the state would give people interested in adopting access to the registry. It's like eHarmony for babies.
It's like eHarmony for babies. It's like realtors in your neighborhood being like, hey, I see you got a house there. What if I just took it from, like, it's so weird. It's like, so gross.
Are they just, I mean, like, how are they finding this registry? Is it just some creepy door-to-door, like, hey, heard you're pregnant. How are you?
And
look
how much
inside
information
your house.
is on the registry, right?
Like, how do you, it doesn't make any sense, but the sheer fact that they're working on it means that they're figuring out the details. And then a roundup would not be complete without a little Ken Paxton in Texas action. State attorney and certified malevolent doofus Ken Paxton is accusing the NCAA of using loopholes to allow transgender women to play in women's sports despite the ban earlier this month. His goal is for the courts to order a mandatory sex screening of all female athletes. Sex screenings, for those who don't know, are invasive and humiliating and can often be incorrect and expensive. According to BBC Sport, hormonal and Y chromosome tests do not account for the infinite variations of the human body and do not actually determine whether someone was assigned male at birth. So they're going to just feel you up before you play?
Right. Or look at your genitals. Like, I just don't understand. It's also, like, just to zoom out, there was that hearing in January where, the NCAA said that they maybe have 10 athletes who are trans. Mm-hmm. And so it's like
10 athletes out of 500,000.
Right. And so because we have this now red scare about transness, we have to, like, of course, oh, this is so horrible. But of course, the moment you vilify a tiny minority, the problems with doing so affect everyone. And so it's like now women are more at risk, like, across the board, because they couldn't leave trans women alone. And I just think that this is, it's all so dark. It solves nothing. Like, this isn't a real problem.
It's not a real problem. This isn't a real problem.
So there's not even a solution, because what are you solving? Like, no one is complaining about this. This is just, like, I get angry because the left is always called the people who are the culture warriors, and here they go with their culture war and their identity politics. But, like, what is this if not that? because like this is not a
Just
real
leave
issue.
people alone.
Right.
This isn't you know what's a problem? Child poverty is a problem. Okay?
That's a problem.
Child poverty is a problem. Infant mortality is a problem.
problem.
Having no paid family leave, a problem.
Enormous problem.
No, and you know actually who I don't hear complaining? Members of the NCAA.
Right. Right. It doesn't affect their, their business, their actual like their recruiting, the fact that people, like they fund entire schools with these programs.
But it's
none
also
of that is
with the
hurt by this.
exception of a few stories you've heard around the country. Not a lot of like high school, college athletes being like, I'm getting screwed because this person is like.
Yeah, they beat me. It's like it was one girl who's just bad at swimming.
In
like
Connecticut. Right. I mean, we know the story. We know the story.
Because it's the one story.
And you know what? Then maybe then that is for the school to handle and to sort out something, but it is not something that requires a Texas statewide policy that people should be felt up before they engage in their sport.